Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're having a lovely day. Today we're going to be talking into the Zoom F3 field recorder using the Sennheiser MKE600 microphone. So let's see if it sounds any different than it did before earlier when I'm using a higher amount of gain on the preamp end, and see if this is anywhere near acceptable, and we'll go from there. Curtis Judd doesn't know why 2 plus 2 equals 2. I don't even know that 2 plus 2 equals 2. We are not the same. Curtis Judd doesn't know why 2 plus 2 equals 4. I didn't even know 2 plus 2 equals 4. We are not the same. Curtis Judd doesn't know why 2 plus 2 equals 2. I don't even know that 2 plus 2 equals 2. We are not the same. Curtis Judd doesn't know why 2 plus 2 equals 4. I didn't even know 2 plus 2 equals 4. We are not the same. Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. So today I'm going to follow up on the video that I did on the Saramonic Ultraless mic wireless setup, and I'm going to compare and contrast that to the DJI Mic 2. The Saramonic, for me, was a complete failure. It was a dud. Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're having a lovely day. So let's see if it sounds any different than it did before earlier. I understand that it's cheap, but even if it's cheap, just give me a working analog input stage and charge me an extra $5 or $20. Charge me an extra $30, but give me something that's functional. The TLDR of my test of the Saramonic Ultra Wireless is that if you use the 3.5 millimeter input jacks on it and plug a microphone into it, the problem that I had is that it sounds the way I would expect it to sound if I plugged a microphone into a line level input rather than a microphone input, and that just expected it to work. It's not a good product in my opinion. The reason that I bought that is not because I wanted something hyper cheap. I bought it because it's the only product I could find in the market that did all the things that I was looking for. So to explain to you why I want that product, I guess I could show you what it is that I have here. This is a Zoom F3 audio recorder. It's plugged into a Sennheiser EW100g3 transmitter that transmits audio wirelessly to the camera, and this is a Sennheiser MKE600 shotgun microphone. I used to do a lot of traveling to legislative hearings, and when I did that, I always wanted to record them, and I wanted to be sure I was ready regardless of the setup that they had. If there was a politician I wanted to record saying some stupid shit in the hallway, I wanted to catch that. If there was an XLR patch panel or a mixer that I could plug into so that I could record all the microphones for a legislative hearing, I wanted to have that. If they didn't have microphones, I brought my own. I was always prepared for all this stuff. And since I started hiring lobbyists once I started my nonprofit back in 2021, I stopped going back and forth between these hearings, and I don't really have much of a good setup anymore. And the problem is that as I let my setup go, stuff like this happens with my current setup.
So helping, police and
I have no idea what that guy said, and I never will, because I had a microphone that was plugged directly into a wireless transmitter without a recorder in between. I like having a recorder in between the transmitter and the microphone so that if something stupid like that happens, when I've already scanned for frequencies and I have new AA batteries and I'm like 20 feet away from the camera, that I have a place I can go and get a backup. If that happens with the setup that I have here, where the microphone has a recorder in between it, I would say, okay, it sucks that you missed out on that in the live stream, but I can take the audio that was recorded by this recorder off of here. It's not going to have any distortion or anything because it was not wireless. And then I can grab that audio and use that. I like having that in a setup. And more importantly, I also like having a setup that is somewhat simple. So this setup, when you plug it into the camera, not only do I have a separate recorder and transmitter, but I also have to deal with separate receivers. This is a one-channel receiver. So if I want two microphones, I would have another receiver over here. Each of these receivers has its own battery pack, and each of these receivers is going to have a cable that goes between it and the camera to get the audio into the camera. That's fucking annoying. And I wanted to try and find a setup that could do all of this stuff and just take away a lot of the aggravation. So some of the solutions in the market fix certain problems. So for instance, this is the Sony UWP-27. What makes this cool is A, you don't have two receivers. You have one receiver that receives two microphones at a time. B, I don't have to worry about the batteries running out in it because you can choose to power it directly off of the camera. So that's one less battery I have to worry about going out if you're managing numerous things at once. And C, you don't have to deal with cables coming out of it because if you're using a Sony camera with an MI hot shoe mount, it sends the audio digitally through the same connection that it's using to mount itself to the camera. So you don't have to deal with cables coming out of it like this. Because right now, if I wanted to have a setup where I had an extended battery plugged into this, I would have to have a wire going to each receiver for the battery, and then a wire going from each receiver to the camera, which is 4 wires, which is 4 wires more than 0, which is what you have with this. This is great. Now, the problem with this setup is that this setup does not have a wireless, it does not have a recorder built into the transmitter. So Curtis Judd does a great review of this setup. It's great, but these transmitters do not do recording. So you would still have a more complicated setup on the recording end like this, because I would need to have a recorder in between the microphone and the wireless transmitter. So while this simplifies things on the receiver side, the transmitting side is still going to have more shit on it than it needs. Now let's take a look at the Sennheiser EW100g3, which is also excellently reviewed by Mr. Curtis Judd, a true gem on YouTube when it comes to reviewing audio and camera equipment. I thoroughly enjoy his videos, and I suggest you watch them. The Sennheiser EW100g3 is a little bit better in that the transmitter is built into the recorder. So you have a recorder built into this. You plug this into the bottom of your microphone, and it is going to record and transmit in one piece. I no longer have to have 2 separate pieces for this thing. There's 2 stupid things about the system, though. The first is, if you want to have the wireless transmitter do the recording, you have to use the XLR. You can't use the body pack. If you use the body pack, no recorder for you. They only put the recorder in there. Why? I have no fucking idea. Ask Sennheiser why they decide to do stupid shit like that to sabotage their own products. Secondly, this does not have a setup to plug itself into the Sony MI hot shoe adapter, which means that you're going to have the same problem that you have with this thing, which is that you're going to have a cable that goes between the receiver and the camera for the audio. And if you want to have extended power, again, you're going to have a USB-C cable going between an external battery pack and each of these receivers. This receiver is also a single channel receiver, not a dual channel receiver. So you don't have to have one of these in your camera. You need to have 2 of these on your camera, which again just increases the complexity. So instead of having 1 of this, you're going to have 2 of this, 2 cables between a battery pack and this if you want to have extended battery for your recordings, and then 2 cables between this and your camera, which is just, again, it decreases my complexity on the transmitter side, but it does nothing to decrease my complexity on the receiver side. And if you're running around and you're like, my primary concern is not, do I have full battery here, or did I set everything up properly? My primary concern is, what did that opposition lobbyist say? Let me make sure I can craft the best response to them. And the 45 seconds I have before it's my turn to testify, I need to not be worried about that shit. So I like having a setup where it's as simple as possible. And neither of these setups do it. So Sennheiser wins on the transmitting end because the recorder is built into the transmitter. Sony wins on the receiving end because it is a dual channel receiver in a single box, which is powered by the camera's hot shoe mount and transmits the audio digitally through that hot shoe mount. But none of them does both. The only thing I could find that did both were the Saramonic Ultra Wireless, which has a Sony adapter. The receiver in that system was dual channel, and the transmitters did the recording. The problem with the Saramonic Ultra Wireless setup is that it sounds like shit. And again, this, I know it's cheap. I get that it's $250 to $300. Charge me an extra $20 and have a competent analog circuit designer put a real mic preamp in there. Seriously, the THAT 1512 microphone preamp that I put together when I was 18 years old, before I even realized that there was a negative effect to not cutting off the leads of your resistors in your breadboard for RF, sounded better than that. When I plugged a microphone into that, it sounded like I would expect a microphone to sound if I plugged it into a line level input rather than a microphone preamp. There's a reason that microphone preamps exist, because when you plug microphones into line level inputs, they sound like dog shit. And there are people in the comments of that video saying, can't you just put an EQ or compressor on and fix in the mix? No, bad. No. I will smack you on the nose. Do not fix in the mix what you should fucking plug in properly to begin with. It's not about the money. You can buy a $2 fucking microphone preamp that sounds better than that. Don't think like that. Every audio engineer should be smacking their audience on the nose if they hear them say that shit. You do not plug a microphone into a line level input and then fix it with a plugin. How fucking, just no. You'll appreciate, just trust me on this one. Don't do that. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to see if the DJI Mic 2 has this functionality where and has it in a manner where it works. So this is a dual channel receiver. So instead of having this on my camera with, again, this is only 1 receiver, not 2. Instead of having this times 2 on my camera, I have this. And I don't have to care about the battery because this is going to power itself directly off the camera if I use the Sony hot shoe mount. I haven't bought that yet because I want to see if the analog circuitry in this is even worth it. If it's not, I don't feel like dealing with 2 separate returns at once. So I've turned this thing on. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to set it to English if it allows me to. And we are going to go from there. So set the date. Turning this thing on. It wants me to set it up with its proper date. So the first thing I want to do is I want to play you what this sounds like through my current system. I'm going to play you it through my current system when I am recording directly to the recorder, and then I'm also going to play you what it sounds like using my current system after the recorder when it's going to the transmitter that then goes to my wireless receiver on my camera. I'm going to do that for both the DJI, and I'm going to do that for this higher end, more professional, old school type of setup. So we're going to play you what it sounds like direct recording, and then wireless for each of them. I'm interested in the direct recording first, simply because if it can't get it right on the recorder, then it's definitely not going to get it right once it's wirelessly transmitted. I want to make sure, so let's play what this sounds like. So again, this is the Sennheiser MKE600. This is a shotgun microphone. It's going into a Zoom F3 audio recorder, which is doing a recording. The line out of the audio recorder is then going into the Sennheiser EW100g3, which then goes to my camera. There's a preamp and input and all that stuff in there. So I'm going to play you what this sounds like. We're going to talk a little bit. The first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to introduce you to what the sound signature is like on the older wireless transmitters by playing you the recorder and this with keys. So with the older analog systems, jingling keys destroys them. Don't ask me why, because I'm not an engineer, but yeah, I'll play you so you can see. So here's what the key jingly test sounds like when we're using the DJI Mic 2. Now I'm going to talk into it a little bit. So I'm just going to sit over here right in front of the microphone, and I'm going to say, Curtis Judd doesn't know why 2 + 2 = 2. I don't even know that 2 + 2 = 2. We are not the same. Curtis Judd doesn't know why 2 + 2 = 4. I didn't even know 2 + 2 = 4. We are not the same. Curtis Judd doesn't know why 2 + 2 = 2. I don't even know that 2 + 2 = 2. We are not the same. Curtis Judd doesn't know why 2 + 2 = 4. I didn't even know 2 + 2 = 4. We are not the same. I'm going to show you what it sounds like when you're dealing with the Zoom recorder by itself, and then you're also going to hear what it sounds like after it's gone through the Zoom into the wireless transmitter, so you can hear how the wireless transmission in an analog system affects the signal, not just with keys, but with my voice. And then I'm going to get up, I'm going to plug the DJI Mic 2 into my camcorder. I'm going to have one of these plugged into the microphone. Because this does not put out phantom power, I'm going to have a AA battery inside of my Sennheiser microphone, and that AA is going to be turned on so that it has power for this. I'm also going to make sure that noise canceling is off, because the AI noise quality reduction, noise reduction is not, I don't need it, and I don't usually like it. I much prefer to do that stuff in post anyway. DaVinci Resolve's AI voice isolation is infinitely better than whatever garbage is going to be built into this, and you can also adjust it later, which I like. So I'm going to plug this in. You already hear what it sounds like through the old system. This is kind of in my opinion, a benchmark. What it sounds like into a Zoom F3 is going to be, for me, the gold standard, and then after that, we're going to plug it into this DJI. I'm going to get up and put this into my camera so that you can hear what it sounds like, and I'm going to make sure that this is set up to record. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you what it sounds like when I'm going through using this Sennheiser MKE600 microphone into the transmitter of the DJI Mic 2. I'm going to play you what this sounds like from directly from the storage, because we're recording to the internal storage, and I'll also play you what it sounds like on the other end. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. We're going to do the jingly test, and we're going to see how that sounds. Now remember, I haven't actually listened to this yet, so I'm not sure if it totally sounds like shit. It may even be useless. All right, let's go over that. Firstly, sound quality of the recording. The sound quality of the recording, to me, they both destroy the Saramonic, and I can't tell the difference between them, at least from what I was listening to. The only differences that I heard are because I had to move the microphone. So this microphone expects phantom power, but if you don't have phantom power, you can put a battery in it, and then there's a switch in it that you could turn on or off on the microphone. I had to get to that switch to turn it on when I was using the DJI. I also had to change cables because the DJI has a 3.5mm input, whereas the Zoom has an XLR input. And because I had to move the microphone a little bit, and I was also reading the take, again, I read it a little differently, that's going to cause it to sound different. But that was a difference I could barely notice. And here's the thing. Let's say there is a difference. If I can't tell the difference, and one system requires that I carry 3 or 4 separate pieces of equipment and look at the battery between them all, and the other is just really teeny tiny and compact and just does what I need, I'm going to go with the convenient one. Forget about the fact that this shit costs $300 with the hot shoe mount, and the other system, the Sennheiser EWDP or the Sony, is going to be $1,500 and missing shit I need. Forget about that. Just the fact that it's more convenient. The fact that I can't tell the difference in sound quality in the recording, I'm good. I'm going like instantly. Yeah, this is the winner for me. Next up is the quality of the wireless transmission. The older Sennheiser systems with the analog compander, they just get destroyed. They suck. They suck. When I did the key jingling test on the Sennheiser, you could immediately hear that clanking noise, and I did not hear that clanking noise with the DJI. Now, I may not hear that clanking noise if I move up to the Sennheiser EWDP, but again, if I buy the Sennheiser EWDP, now I have to deal with two separate receivers again, and two separate wires coming out of them, and two separate wires for the battery and everything else, and it's like $1,300 or $1,400. $300. It plugs directly into the thing. And to be clear, I hate DJI so much as a company. If Sennheiser made a dual channel receiver and made a Sony hot shoe mount, I would give them $2,000 to avoid DJI. I'm just putting that out there. But clearly, it completely shits on the old systems where you have an analog compander that it's going through, while in the key jingling test made that blatantly obvious. So next up, we're going to be moving on to a much less fair test to the DJI because I just hate that company that much. So this microphone is designed to be used with its internal AA battery, which is a 1.5 volt battery if you don't have phantom power. It's designed for that. This microphone is not. This microphone is designed to be used with 5 volts of plug-in power, or phantom power, which is 48 volts. It'll step it down to 5 volts. This is a DPA 4065, and it's designed to work at 5 volts. The DJI, I think, only puts out about 2 or 2.5 volts. So this is going to be a really unfair test. I want to see how it handles a different microphone that it's not even fucking designed for. The Saramonic failed at doing the basic shit that it was designed for. The DJI didn't. So now we're going to go to the next level. So right now, I am plugged into the Zoom F3 with my DPA 4065. It's providing phantom power. And then I also have my Sennheiser over here. So I wanted to see how this sounds. Then I'm going to plug it into the DJI, and I'm going to see what it sounds like. And I also want to test what the clipping protection is like with the 32-bit recording if I were to yell really loud. So I'm going to talk into the Zoom F3 that and then I'm going to show you what that sounds like back and forth. So then I'm going to go to the DJI, and I want to see what that sounds like as well if I were to scream really, really, really loud, and I want to see how it handles that. So we're going to be testing two things at once here, which again is not fair. Number one, how does it handle powering this capsule, which it's not even made to power? Because again, if you're yelling, you really want the full 5 volts, not 2 or 3. And number two, how is the internal 32 float recording? I cannot test both of these with this microphone separately from one another, and because it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday night and I want to go have fun, I'm sorry, I'm running out of patience for this shit. This is the best that you're going to get. So I'm going to start talking about 2 plus 2, and we're going to yell a little bit while talking about 2 plus 2. Does 2 plus 2 equals 4? Does Curtis Judd know how to do math? Did Curtis Judd go to New York City public school? This is the best that you're going to get. So I'm going to start talking about 2 plus 2, and we're going to yell a little bit while talking about 2 plus 2. Does 2 plus 2 equals 4? Does Curtis Judd know how to do math? Did Curtis Judd go to New York City public school? And we're going to see how that works. Now we're going to switch back to the DJI, and I'm going to yell into it, and we're going to see how that works and see what the sound quality is like. Sure that all of the noise cancellation bullshit is turned off on this DJI, because I fucking hate that shit. It makes it sound worse, especially when this is all shit that you can just do in post. Again, DaVinci Resolve has really gone very far with what they're doing there, and I love it. All right, so now what is going to make this a little bit harder than using the Sennheiser EWDP, if you get that, is this does have you set the gain on the transmitter and the receiver, whereas in the Sennheiser you're not setting gain in the transmitter, which is pretty nice. But we're going to be testing this here to see how 2 plus 2 equals 4. Does 2 plus 2 equals 4? Does Curtis Judd listen to Radiohead? Does he think 2 plus 2 equals 5? Does this distort? One way to find out. But we're going to be testing this here to see how 2 plus 2 equals 4. Does 2 plus 2 equals 4? Does Curtis Judd listen to Radiohead? Does he think 2 plus 2 equals 5? Does this distort? One way to find out. I am going to take the recordings off. I'm going to put them in here. We're going to see what they sound like. Which one allows me the ability to recover when that happens, and also which one better handled that. Again, to be clear, the Zoom recorder, this by itself, no fucking wireless, is over $300. That costs more than 2 channels of recording, 2 channels of wireless receiving, and 2 channels of wireless transmission. The Zoom it should shit on the DJI. The DJI is not even fucking spec'd for this situation. In my opinion, the sound quality between the Zoom and the DJI were identical until I started screaming. Now, again, as I said, I can't tell if the difference there is because this just is not as good when it comes to the whole float thing or how they implement float. It seems like the way Zoom implemented float actually worked. It got rid of every single bit of distortion. Whereas with the DJI, the float was just kind of a meme. It still clipped. Now, did it clip because of the analog to digital conversion? Or did it clip because the microphone preamp is not necessarily as good quality? Did it clip because of the voltage difference? That's something to ask. So when it comes to these DPA microphones, if a microphone is spec'd for 5 volts of plug power and you're only giving it 2 or 2.5, it'll work, but when you scream, you may be missing out on something. So I'm gonna try and make this a little bit more even now. Now we're testing the float ability and its ability to recover things. I'm back to the Sennheiser MKE600, but I'm not using phantom power with the Zoom. I actually have phantom power off on the Zoom, and I'm using the battery so that the DJI and the Zoom both are only working with 1.5 volts going to this microphone. So here we're going to be we're going to be removing that variable of the voltage that it puts out to the microphone being different, and that affecting how it deals with recovering clipping. I'm going to try to recover clipping by yelling into the Zoom, and then I'm going to try to recover clipping yelling into the DJI. And since you've already heard what it sounds like when it's distorted, I'm not going to waste time playing you the distorted clip. I'm just going to play you me screaming into the Zoom and then me screaming into the DJI, and we're going to go from there. Do you think I shouldn't have a schematic? If not, then why? Are you an idiot? Do you think 2 + 2 = 5? I actually feel like I have strep throat after that. All right, I'm actually starting to lose my voice now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to yell again, but I'm going to try to yell again. This is using the Sennheiser MKE600 microphone. It's plugged straight into a Zoom F3, which for some reason is the only Zoom recorder I've ever worked that doesn't have self-noise. But that's okay. I've gotten over it. All right, we're going to try this again. I'm going to try to do this without losing my voice. Right now, I'm talking right into the Sennheiser MKE600. It's about a fist away from my mouth. I'm talking into a Zoom F3. The Zoom F3 is the only recorder I've ever purchased from Zoom that does not have self-noise. Why? I'm actually not that angry about it, but it's just mildly salty about my Zoom H1N. That's about as loud as I can go. And I am going to try to do that once again into the DJI. Now, this is not going to be a fair comparison because I feel like I'm close to losing my voice. So I'm going to plug this into the DJI and see where that goes. All right, you're now listening to me through the Sennheiser MKE600. It's about a fist length away from my mouth. It's plugged into a DJI recorder. It's the only product from DJI that didn't ask me to use a fucking app. Can't stand DJI. These people and their fucking NDAs, they get people to go on YouTube and leave reviews of their products, and they send it, but they make them sign an NDA that says what they're allowed to say about the product. Wait, yeah, that's actually not even. I'm starting to lose my voice. They make people sign NDAs that say what they can and cannot say about the product. Why? In that comparison, I think that the DJI fared better when trying to recover from clipping with the Sennheiser MKE600 than it did with the DPA 4065. However, it still, in my opinion, was not as good as this. When I really tried to belt it and yell as loud as humanly possible, the Zoom handled it perfectly, and you could hear the DJI with a little bit of clipping. Whether or not that's because of the analog to digital conversion process, or whether that's simply because of the mic preamp, I don't know. But I do know that this is no longer just an issue with voltage. It is a little bit better on the Sennheiser, and I'm guessing that's because the DPA was not getting the full voltage that the capsule needed, but it's still not perfect. And I'm not allowed to complain about this at this point because the Zoom F3 is a 2-channel recorder that costs $299, whereas the DJI Mic 2 is 2 channels of recording, 2 channels of wireless transmission, and 2 channels of wireless reception for $269. So you pay $30 less for this, and you get wireless transmission and receiving at the same time. So if you want a recorder and you really need the ability to record the Iron Sheik screaming at the Hulk, like, get an F3. If you want something that you can just clip onto yourself and carry around, again, this is, in my opinion, a little bit more practical. If I was just going to have a conversation with somebody and I'd like to have a recorder in case there's issues with the wireless transmission, but I'm not concerned about them turning into the Hulk and needing to capture that unclipped, This is just the practical solution. While I do like the Zoom F3 as a float recorder, like what? I'm going to tell somebody to like clip this to your shirt? Like, really? I mean, what kind of fucking idiot am I going to look like? Now, you could use Velcro and clip it to a belt clip. There's somebody out there who's going to go, I'm actually, like, really? You're going to tell your talent to clip this to the fucking belt clip? You're going to tell them to put this shit in their pocket? Get out of here. Just get out of here. Get the fuck away from me. But this is just so much easier to be able to utilize in that way. Now, Zoom does make recorders that are smaller, that are designed for microphones like the DPA 4065 to be plugged into. They're smaller, like the F1 or the F2, but you're back to square one because it only puts out 2.5 volts of plug power. Now you go over to Tascam, you look at them. They make the DR-10 Pro, which is a 32-bit float recorder that's in a much smaller format. It's closer to this size than this size. And you may think, well, I can just plug that float recorder that's high quality into it and be... No, because Tascam's also only gives you 2 to 2.5 volts of plug power. You know, the only one who does give you 5 volts of plug power? Technical, the company that if you buy their recorder in the United States, does not have a fucking line level output. They actually turn off the line level or headphone output on that recorder if you're using it in the United States, which keeps you from using it with a microphone transmitter. This entire market is fucked. It's stupid in so many ways. It's so fucking stupid. The more I dig into the audio market for video, the more I just want to cry. Like I don't know if people like between that and the Panasonic HC2100X camera having preamps that are worse than whatever the fuck was in my Talkboy that my parents got me in 1993. I don't know what it is about video, people. I don't know, like, if you hate audio or if you got traumatized by audio or something, but like, I don't know what it is. But this is just, in my opinion, it's a really silly and stupid market in a lot of ways. It's very easy to spend a lot of money and get something that sounds like shit. It's very easy to spend a lot of money and get something that's like 3 or 5 generations behind. Again, with Sony, you could spend $1,400 with Sony. You do not get a recorder on board. You're still dealing with the companding shit. It's digital, so it's a little better, but you're still dealing with companding shit. Sennheiser, to this day, you could spend $700 to buy this analog, very, very, can't even pass keys right bullshit. Or as Jim Williams would say, God rest his soul, can't pass a Beltry. This stuff, you could pay $700 for this. You don't get internal recording. You have it's annoying. You don't have something that just hooks into the hot shoe on any of these cameras. You still have to deal with battery bullshit. And it's $700. At the end of the day, the DJI is actually, sadly, a good product. I say sadly because I don't like the way this company interacts with people on YouTube, and I don't like the deceptive ways in which they do business. There are videos that you're going to see coming out from other content creators very soon, some of them my good friends, where they are revealing NDAs that DJI offered them. Here, if we're going to send you this to review, you're only allowed to say this. You're not allowed to say that. I think that that's absolutely horrible. It's why a lot of the content that you see about DJI on YouTube skews so much to the positive and never to the negative, because the people that get paid for these reviews are literally not allowed legally to say something bad about the company. I dare you to file a cease and desist on this video. If you try, I will fucking take my keys and shove them someplace that you will not be able to hear them. But in all seriousness, I don't like them as a company, which is why I was rooting for somebody else. It's why I bought a Saramonic instead of buying this, and it's why I waited so long to try any of these new systems. The Saramonic, unfortunately, is not a completely designed product. They could be the best company in the world, but you literally put a line level input into a microphone input device. That's fucking stupid. You can't do that. The audio will sound like shit. In conclusion, I would like to see some of these Japanese products innovate more and stop reselling the same shit year after year, whether it's the Panasonic HC2100X, which is a camcorder that literally doesn't even tell me if I am streaming. I can't even click a button to see the fucking password that I typed in when I'm using this shitty camcorder touchscreen to type everything into it. It has video that looks like shit. It has audio that sounds worse than a Talkboy. Sony, again, just put a recorder in that thing. It's a $1,400 piece of kit. Add $500 to it. People are still going to buy it. Give them the option to put a recorder in it. I don't understand why some of these companies that have the engineering departments to do this just keep reselling the same shit year after year after year. And I don't understand the audio market with camcorders and video stuff at all. If I wanted to buy a smaller recorder than this from Zoom that fits in a pocket, I can only get a 24-bit one, not a 32-bit one. If I want to buy it from Tascam, they make the DR10X Pro or DR10 Pro. I could buy that thing. It's smaller and it's 32-bit, but it only puts out 2 or 2.5 volts of plug power, and I need 5 for my lavalier and DPA microphones. If I buy a Tentacle, the Tentacle is 32-bit. It's small, and it puts out 5 volts of plug power. And guess what? You can't use it with a wireless system because the headphone out gets turned off in the fucking United States if you try to record and use the headphone out at the same time. You can listen through your headphones, but when you hit record, you can't monitor anymore, which means you can't use it with a wireless system. The entire audio market for video equipment, as somebody who was an audio engineer, who worked at like a place like Avatar Studios, who maintained this stuff, it makes no fucking sense to me whatsoever. I can't make heads or tails of it, but this is the closest I can get to something that makes sense. So hopefully this was able to help you if you're trying to pick equipment. If you are speaking to somebody and you are speaking in a normal voice and you just want something that will help you along if the wireless transmission goes out, and maybe helps if they get a little bit loud, the DJI will do for you. If you need the ability to capture them as they turn into the Incredible Hulk and a single clip on your screen will result in you not getting paid, then get this and deal with the fact that you're going to have to plug this into a wireless thing separately and just fucking, make a belt for your client, make them wear it around their neck as a necklace or some shit. I don't know. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully this was helpful. Shout out to Curtis Judd for doing the best audio reviews on YouTube and inspiring me to capture all these recordings as I went through my journey of figuring out what the fuck was wrong with all this equipment so that I could share it with all of you. He shares with all of you, and he inspired me to do the same. You should watch his channel. It's pretty good. See you in the next video. Bye now.